from here. Huh?
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Got the wife off camera here. Um, just figuring out the ins and outs of all this. So far, I don't think we're joined by anybody.
that takes a minute.
Well, I saw where somebody said they were waiting. Then again, I don't know. No idea. I guess we'll just hang out for a while and see who shows up. All right.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Yeah. Let's see. One. Oh wow. It's pretty wild to see that kind of latency going on over there. This is the first time that we've really tried anything like this, so bear with us. Hey, thank you. Yep, I'm doing pretty well, man. Excited for the tour coming up in September, and yep, got lots of stuff on the way. Still, of course, the heavily anticipated album that we've been meaning to release, but it's coming. It's just taking a while. All right. Yep, just hanging out waiting for some people to show up. Cheers, everyone. Having a sparkling water here. What we got here? Got my makeshift little desk rig over here that I use just for quick and dirty practice, or if I have an idea and it's at the middle of the night. Basically, it's just this little guy right here, this little Fender Mustang thing. And I just plug it into, well, I actually drive the front end of it with a pedal, like you normally would an amp. And then I just plug it into my Mackie board over here through the tape input, and it's good enough. I mean, it's not a perfect, like, Grammy award-winning guitar tone or anything, but it's good enough for, it's good enough for quick and dirty demo ideas or just sitting around practicing. You're able to see anything over there, question-wise?
I'm
Still working on it?
yeah.
All right. Well, we got a few more people in here now. What's up, everybody? Thanks for showing up. 6:30 on a Sunday. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be hopefully answering some questions via Super Chat, but also I wanted to talk about, we could go ahead and talk about a few other things. First off, thanks so much for all the response. Anybody who saw my Burning Pits of the Duat playthrough on my DTW YouTube channel, I really appreciate that. There was one of the questions, actually there was one of the things that I saw in the comments. Somebody said that I must have set this guitar up and put thick strings on it or something crazy like that. In a normal situation, I would have done that. When I tracked some of the rhythm guitars for the playthrough, I just used a guitar that was tuned in drop A. For the additional guitar that I played, this thing is in D sharp standard. But one of the things that's been helping me out rehearsal wise, playthrough wise, and soon live is this drop pedal over here. Just unplug it for a second so you can see it. This thing right here is a game changer for me. Narcotic Wasteland has two primary tunings, which is D standard and D sharp standard. And this allows me to just switch between the tunings anytime I want. And, you know, at first I was a little skeptical about that. I thought it would be kind of weird. Hey, thank you. But honestly, as long as you don't hear the acoustic strings, so anyways, it's able for me, it's this allowing me to be able to travel a little bit lighter and just carry like one or two guitars max. And I'm able to go through, have more tunings available to me. And I'll be able to, say, play one song that's in this tuning and then immediately play a song in a different tuning without pretty much not much gap in between, which is pretty cool. So yeah, if I want to do do some Nile stuff, then I just drop the one string down, and I go over here to the drop tuner. And then there you go. I'm in Nile mode. And that's pretty cool. I was really, like I said, I was a little skeptical about how well that would work. And then we finally just said screw it and pulled the trigger on one. And it actually works out quite well. Oh, well, thanks very much. You know, I've been singing and playing about as long as I've been playing the guitar, and that's going to be probably over 35 years at this point. You know, back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was a little different. It was more like, you know, yeah, you know, that kind of thing.
I'm live now on TikTok.
And, oh, good deal. So you had a moment there trying to get that TikTok thing to work. Okay. But, you know, a lot of practice over the years. I think the best practice I received at singing and playing was in some of my early bands. I had this really crappy amp that I couldn't hear what I was doing ever. So I was just constantly trying to scream over the band. And, of course, you know, now I know that doesn't really work, but it helped me develop some strength as far as my throat and you know, my abs and everything involved in, you know, belting out, you know, yelling at people kind of thing, you know, death metal vocals or whatever you want to call it. I've never really put a label on it personally. It's just a feeling basically that comes out. But also getting to another question, I think somebody was asking about amp settings, and I did take a couple of pictures of the amp settings, but actually this will be the easiest way to do this, I think. I'm just going to stick this guitar back here, and I used my old trusty PV Windsor back here for the rhythm tracking on that. And there's the settings. Let me see if I can get that in there. It's kind of backwards, it looks like. Just got a little bit of mid-range there. The bass and the treble are pretty much dumped. Just put this back on here. There we go. And I was able to get it. I'm able to get it pretty similar to the Marshall. I use this one. I save on this one because, you know, it sounds great. So I use it sparingly and lightly. I use it for when I need to do something really serious. With this state of, you know, vacuum tubes and stuff like that, who knows what's going to end up happening, and more people are going to modeling and that's fine. Some of them do sound really good. For me, I'm kind of just a old punk rocker guy, so I feel like if I can't lug a 412 and an amp head into a venue comfortably, then maybe I should reconsider my career opportunities. But to each their own. There's no really like right way to do things. I just prefer these old tube amps. I've got my live rig in here, which has my two PV triple X's. They're just workhorses. They work great for live. Under the microscope, these, in a studio setting, these have a little bit more clarity, in my opinion. So they're very similar. This has the resonance and presence, which I'm not really using a lot of. It seems to just be a little bit too boomy with all that extra resonance cranked in. Trying to look at some of these questions here. I haven't really thought about a signature guitar model just yet. One of the reasons why I picked this solar guitar, in particular this model, is because stylistic wise, it's my two favorite body styles kind of put into one guitar, which is V shape and star body shape. But if I am to put out a signature model, it's going to be very similar to this one. I've showed this a couple of times and just hitting the kill switch on that. I think it has it on the back. This is a X2 5 or 6 ROP plus. But the thing that I love about this the most is actually not the thing I love about it the most. It's one of the things I really like about it is the standard bridge. I've just always been really comfortable with these. These are kind of like no fuss bridges. You just tune it and you go. And the volume controls, not in the way of my hand. That's a very big one. So, if I was to do a signature model, it would be very similar to this. I would not really change much about this at all. The only upgrade I'll probably maybe eventually do is get locking tuners, but I honestly haven't really been having any tuning issues out of this guitar at all. And, this is a fairly climate controlled environment, so even when it's sitting on the stand, I pick it back up and it's relatively still in tune pretty good. It needs strings at the moment. I've been playing this one a lot since I got it. It's been pretty much my main go-to, not just because it's the new guy, but because it's really great. I really like the neck profile on this. Sounds great. It's just really solid all-around guitar. I don't feel like I'm going to break it when I'm playing it. And man, you gotta love this finish. You can kind of see where I'm starting to add some clear coat. That happens to all of my guitars, from I guess my nails just going like that or whatever. That part of my hand usually stays pretty relaxed, but I'm not really thinking about it. I'm probably just digging right into the finish there. But yeah, like I said, if I was to do a signature model, it's going to be something like this, and probably like 20 different colors. Let's see, there was something else I saw in the comments that I wanted to talk about. Somebody said something about singing and playing at the same time, Burning Pits of the Duat. And they were wanting me to do a playthrough of vocals and guitar at the same time. I do have plans to do that coming up. There's a particular song on the DTW channel. I plan on doing playthroughs for all my Nile material. And one of them I definitely will be singing and playing. I'm not going to reveal what it is yet, but all that stuff is on the horizon. Right now, I'm just focused on still wrapping up some of the details for the Narcotic album that's coming out, and the tour in September. So uh, you guys definitely check the dates and come on out. And going to be playing, obviously our stuff, but we're going to be playing a couple of these Nile songs from Annihilation of the Wicked, which uh, probably is my favorite out of all of everything that we did that I was involved in. There's just a lot of stuff aligned with that record. That one, Those Whom the Gods Detest, and What Should Not Be Unearthed. As far as the later part of that catalog, I think those are probably my favorites, but Annihilation probably maybe being at the very top. It's hard to say, I obviously feel a connection to all the albums that I was part of, in one way or the other. A lot of people really like Darkened Shrines. I think the songs on that album are really great. I think that we hadn't quite gotten the hang of mixing just yet. But yeah, there's definitely a few songs I'm looking forward to, and some fans have already asked for some playthroughs, so they're going to be getting done. As far as the Burning Pits and the other song that I did so far in playthroughs, I decided to do it kind of an old school, like, demo way, like the way these songs would have been constructed back then, which basically means pen and paper, a guitar, and a drum machine. And I find that a really cool way to work. Some people started using like Drum Kit from Hell and all this other stuff, and it's pretty cool, and it obviously works. I've heard some really great demos with people using that. But for me, the difference is having to look through a bunch of drum loops to find something versus just quick and dirty programming something. Because in my studio setup, I'm not really trying to, produce an album quality stuff in here. This is just a place for me to demo out my ideas, have some fun, do some playthroughs. I'm not trying to like mix a Grammy Award winning album in here or anything like that. I think there's in some ways I think there's a little too much emphasis on that. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you put out a super polished album, well, it's super polished and it's quantized and it's this, that, and the other thing. You put out something a little rough around the edges, a little more natural, and people are going to be like, "Oh, it sounds like crap." So, what can you do? You can't please them all. Me personally, for mixing, I like somewhere in between. I like it to have tightness and some precision to it, but not sound like a computer. I think there's a balance there. In the studio you can use for you can either use it to cheat or you can use it to grow as a musician. The choice is up to that person. And like I said, I'm not some super purist. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to go about doing any of this stuff. But just be honest about it. Whatever it is, just be honest about what it is. Let me see if I can see any of this stuff. Yeah, it is pretty hot outside. We've been getting record-breaking temperatures.
Yeah. The tour starts September 3rd.
So first show of the tour is September 3rd, and is that the Wisconsin show?
Yeah, the Annex.
Okay, so the Annex in Wisconsin on September 3rd. That'll be the first show of the tour. We actually just confirmed that one. It was kind of weird, we were working on this tour, and as we were working on it, more offers and stuff like that started coming in, and I'm really excited about it, man. We're gonna go tear it up with our buddies in Filth for quite a few shows. Gonna be hitting a few places that we haven't hit either in a while or maybe even ever. So what you got for me over there?
Yeah, you're gonna be playing at Ground Zero with Crypta.
Yep, playing Ground Zero, Crypta. Ground Zero, that's a pretty, I would think at this point, a very famous venue in South Carolina. I remember my old band Deucalion, this was pre-Nile, we played on my birthday. It might even have been my 21st birthday. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But we played a club that the same people that owned Ground Zero, I think, owned that one. It was called Doggone. And that was a fun time. And then, right when I kind of moved into town or whatever, Ground Zero was the spot. I saw Nevermore there. I saw Flotsam and Jetsam there. I saw Exodus there with reunion with Paul Bailoff was there. I saw I've seen Cannibal Corpse there a bunch of times. I saw Napalm Death there. I played there with Lecherous Nocturne on drum. I was a drummer. I played, I think that was the Fear Factory show. And actually played and opened for Deicide there once too. And actually that's one of the last Ground Zero concerts I went to was actually I went and saw Deicide. Saw my buddy Creesh there and from Lecherous Nocturne.
Brian Ellis said we opened for Max Sabbath at Ground Zero.
Oh yes, that's right. Hell, what's up, Brian? Yeah, that was a fun show, man. We really tore it up that night. And Max Sabbath was surprisingly entertaining. Actually, I thought it was kind of fun and cool. Yeah, Ground Zero. They've been around a long time, and that'll be cool. That'll be actually the first time Narcotic Wasteland's played there.
Yeah. And first time since 2017 since you played South Carolina.
Since I played upstate South Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be cool. Looking forward to that.
Yeah. Now you got someone asking, what is the most difficult song you have played live?
There you go.
What is the most difficult song you have played live?
Most difficult song I would play live, I would have to say, that's a pretty tough one. For Narcotic Wasteland, I would say definitely Introspective Nightmares, but now I've played it so many times that it's actually pretty comfortable. Taking those lessons a few years back definitely helped. For Nile, I would say the most difficult would have been As He Creates, So He Destroys. We played that on, I think that might have been the 20 Years of Nile tour that we did, where we were doing like 2 1-hour sets. And that one was tough. It wasn't so much the coordination between playing the parts and singing the parts as it was just the stamina levels needed for the picking and all that, because that's really a big factor, and that's one of the things that I really have to stay on top of, is being able to keep that picking dialed, and a lot of different things that I do to keep that in shape. Thanks to my teacher that I took a few lessons from a few years back. He really blew my mind on some things concerning cross picking and outside picking. I knew about alternate picking, and I was already practicing that regularly all the time, and then just these other added little techniques kind of just blew the door off the whole damn thing, and it really kind of it was the missing piece to the puzzle for me, and it was a total game changer. And now I can pick faster, more aggressively, using less energy. And it was all just because of my own sort of, not necessarily crappy technique, but it's just one of the things that we do, especially as metal players. We just tense up, we press way too hard, and you just don't have to. And once you can kind of breathe right and sort of concentrate on your breathing as well as your playing and stuff like that, because it's everybody's natural thing to just all right, you got a hard part coming up. You tense up and you're like, oh shit, and that's like the worst thing you can do. That's like the last thing you want to do, is get tensed up. You want to try to stay relaxed. So practicing all this stuff has helped me stay relaxed with anything that I need to do. And it's one of the things that I've been kind of instilling in my students as well, which I want to bring that up too. I actually have some slots open. I know I'm going to be gone the whole month of September, but we can still probably schedule something. So hit me up. Yeah, just hit me up on the socials, or hit me up, at the DTW website or whatever, if anybody's out there that would be interested in lessons. DallasToler-Wade.com or NarcoticWasteland.com, or hit me up at Dallas Toler-Wade official Insta, or hit up Narcotic Insta or whatever. It's out there. I've got a pretty cool program that I've been running with my students, and it's been getting some really killer results. So if anybody out there is interested in that, hit me up.
Yeah.
Can you get that back on the so you can see the questions?
Oh yeah, it's right here. Yeah, your tablature.
Oh yes, on the DTW website. If any of you are interested, the tablature for Burning Pits of the Dua and Lash of the Slave Stick are on the website. So check it out. I've been working through them. I was able to find some online to kind of correct, and so some of it might still not be perfect, but also so I'm still just kind of sifting through all that. But also the Guitar Pro files will be ready pretty soon too. I just got to do a few tweaks on that as well, and then that'll be ready. So that'll be cool. I plan on having all the tablature up for everything at some point. I was really surprised to find out that so many people wanted to know what I was doing on the Nile stuff and the narcotic stuff. So yeah, I would be doing it anyway, so why not put it out there and let everybody check it out. I've definitely seen some playthroughs that some fans have done, both of Nile songs and narcotic songs, and some of them are pretty damn good, and that's pretty impressive. It's been a long time since I really, well, I lie about that. At not normally figuring out other people's stuff. I did figure out double vision the other day because it's been coming on the radio, and it's one of those things where it got stuck in my head, and I was like, well, I should learn how to do that. It's a pretty badass riff, actually. So I figured that one out. Pretty funny. Any more questions up there I could be looking at?
Could you elaborate on those techniques to learn them? Stamina on hard parts is my biggest weakness.
Yeah, stamina on the fast runs. The only advice I can give on that is just repetition. I mean, there are songs that are in the set list that are always going to be in the set list that always create pain in my right arm. I mean, that's just how it is. Some days is better than others, but I find that if I'm hitting my full set list at least 3 times a week, then that pain goes away after a while. It's more tolerable levels of pain. One of the things that I always hate is, I mean, everybody needs to take a break from playing sometimes, but man, when I take a break from playing, I feel it, like even a week, and then I go to try to play something and I'm just like, nope, it's not happening. So it can be really tough. When I'm practicing by myself and practicing the songs for the set list, I usually start up kind of slow. I usually pick a few slower songs and ramp my way up, because I'm just here by myself, working on the stuff and keeping my chops up. There's no reason to try to just kill myself out of the gate. It's best to warm up slowly and then dive into the really hard tracks. But either way, I hope that rant helps. It definitely is a struggle for any sort of extreme guitar players that have a lot of fast picking, um, and they requires. One of the things that I've noticed um, over the years is they require different levels of energy. So you have, I think one of the ones that I'm most comfortable with because of the stuff that I've been playing over the years is, your double strokes. There's just a lot of that at varying speeds, and just whole pages of the stuff. Uh, a similar energy can be used up with downstrokes, which I do okay with. I think if I did them more in my songs, then I would probably get it down a little better. The thing that I find that uses up the most energy for picking is gallops. I think it's because there's a couple of different ways to gallop. Now, if you're one of those superhuman people that can go up, down, up, down, or whatever, like back and forth like that, then you're superhuman, because I know somebody that can do that, and their gallops are like, and I'm just like, damn you, dude. But for me, the mere mortal, I always have to do it that way if I'm doing gallops, and they're tough. It's just hard to get that, for me anyways, it's hard to get that fast, and it just uses up a lot of extra energy. Anything else? What we got?
Yeah, have you ever performed the song Annihilation of the Wicked live? I don't think I've ever seen it live on YouTube. Was there a reason you didn't perform the song live?
Huh. Well, actually, we did perform that song a lot live. And actually, we would do the thing even after the Annihilation of the Wicked tours, so to speak. We would do the thing where we would do it like the album. We would play, Lashed Annihilation. You know what I mean? We would play Lashed and Annihilation beside each other, kind of like they are on the album. Yeah, man, that thing was on the set list for a long time. So I don't know what happened there, because we definitely played it a lot for many years. I don't know if I don't think they're playing it now, but yeah, it was definitely on the list.
So when you come to Denmark, Copenhagen,
We're working on that. We've got some prospects for Europe in November, but we're still ironing out the details. I don't know if we're going into Copenhagen yet, but trust me, I've definitely been trying to get back over there. A lot of fans over the years have been wanting me to come back, and of course, I've got some good friends over there as well. And it would be great to come back over and jam out with you guys. And we're definitely working on that.
yeah. Curious if the riff in the Burning Pits of Duat recorded with all down picks on the album.
Well, I don't think that. I think there might be a misunderstanding with the technique, because that song doesn't really have down picking in it. It's all like double picking, very fast double picking, and then the other part is going to be alternate picking, which is going to be like, it's got a lot of that, and it's got a lot of what people would call trim picking or tremolo picking, a lot of 16th notes. So unless you can downstroke 16th notes, which I guess that just depends on how you slice everything. But yeah, that's not really a down-picked song at all. Wrong technique. A lot of alternate picking.
Can you explain how you hold the pick in your hand picking position?
Sure. I've actually gone through, and I talked about this, I think, on the first DTW episode. I've gone through a couple of different picking stances over the years. When I started playing the guitar, I held the pick kind of like this way, if that makes any sense. Let's see if I can hold that up in the camera. I kind of held the pick angled like this way. And it was pretty cool. I was using a much different pick. I was using a thinner pick back then. This is a 1.14. I was using a little bit thinner pick, but I would hold my pick this way. And it worked out pretty cool, but I started developing problem in my wrist. And there was something about the sound of that I just didn't like. And one day I just turned it around that way. And I haven't looked back since as far as the way I hold the pick and all that stuff. And it kind of went more normal, I guess, is more of a normal way to hold the pick. But then there's only just a little bit of the pick hanging out, as you can see. It's just the tip, baby. That's all you need, especially with the sharp picks. I like the Tortic sharps, and that's just a big old sharp point on there, and you just don't really need a whole lot of that. There was another picking style that I went through that some fans were calling the tabletop. And I was, for many, many years, instead of having my hand just kind of normal like this, I had my elbow kind of up like this. And I was picking like that. And for a while there, I was able to really get some super clean and super fast picking out of that. But I hit a cap with it. I hit a speed cap with it. And I started developing issues in my elbow. So I just kind of reworked it and just was like, it was, again, that thing of relaxing, And I just found that I could get it cleaner, more aggressive, just relaxing a little bit, and not killing myself trying to, It was pretty cool. And like I said, it worked for the time, but I started getting, because of these weird techniques, I started getting like problems in my wrist and problems in my elbow. And since I've been like just doing it this way, my picking is cleaner and faster, and I don't have all those issues. I haven't had a single issue actually in my elbow or my wrist since I switched over to just doing it this way. And I switched over to this style that I'm at now probably in I want to say 2008, 2009 was right there at the very end of me picking like this. So I hope that answered that.
What's one riff in the set that still gives you chills when you play it live?
That's a good one. I really like this section in Keeping Up with the Jones. We'll hit a chord and the drum beat kicks back in and the drums are just kind of playing there. But then when it kicks in with that crunchy part there, okay, at that point I'm dancing. I'm dancing around all crazy. That's definitely one of them. Another one is the harmony section in Introspective Nightmares. Doing that live is so much fun. I've always been a big fan of guitar harmonies and stuff like that. So I really want to do more stuff like that in our music. But that's another great sort of hair-raising moment, if you will.
If you weren't doing death metal, what kind of music would you be making?
That's a good question. And I do have a project that I'm going to eventually get to work on that I already have material for. If I wasn't doing death metal, I would probably just be doing more like a traditional heavy metal style, something in the vein of like early Sabotage or, early Priest or even early Sanctuary, stuff like that. All that stuff was a huge influence on me growing up, and it's kind of still where my heart is. And Narcotic Wasteland, I guess, could be considered death metal, but there's a lot of thrash in us too, and kind of old school stuff going on. And that's definitely reflective of the stuff that I really, really like. Don't get me wrong, I love death metal like the next guy, but I mean, my heart has always been more into thrash and crossover and punk and stuff like that. But yeah, I have a project that's got some really just rockin' classic heavy metal riffs. It's going to be a lot of fun once I put it out. But right now, my big concentration is going to be on this tour and Narcotic Wasteland and the next album, which has been complete for a long time. Just looking at the right place, the right time, and the right possible label opportunities before we put that out. And we've already got more material for the fourth album, so it'll be a while before I get to the project, but I'm excited about the material that I have for it so far. I can't wait to reveal the name for my heavy metal project. Man, it's going to be so cool. You're going to have to wait like a year or two.
Eric Schultek said, "What's up?"
What's happening, Eric? We still need to do beer and Skype soon. Yeah.
Are there any deep cuts you've been itching to bring into the set for diehard fans?
No, actually, pretty much anything that got requested, we ended up bringing in. I would say "Awaken the Herd Beast," maybe. It's kind of a B-side cut that it was the first Narcotic playthrough that I did for the celebration of the 10 years of Narcotic Wasteland or whatever. Because the first playthrough I did was the the guitar and vocal playthrough of Anthem. But last year, when did we do that? That was last year, 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the album came out in 2014. Dude. Man, it's just hard to keep up with. Time is just flying.
If you could re-record one song from the catalog with today's gear and mindset, which one would it be?
Oh, man. I don't really know. I mean, I would have to dig back to, I would like to really hear a good remix, remaster of Nile's In Their Darkened Shrines. I think the songs are great, and I'm not even saying the mix is bad. I'm just saying, on that note, I would say Black Seeds of Vengeance. I'd like to hear that done. I'm not saying super modern and super polished and all that, because I don't think that would work with that. But, just clean it up a little bit. Some of the early Nile stuff I'd like to hear redone. Not necessarily re-recorded, but, just remixed and remastered.
What are some of the songs that you're playing on this tour?
Oh, well, we're playing two songs from Annihilation of the Wicked to celebrate 20 years of Annihilation of the Wicked. We're going to be playing The Burning Pits of the Duat, and we're going to be playing Lashed to the Slave Stick. I wrote the music for those two songs, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm going to be doing a playthrough for Lashed too. That'll be coming up next. I'm waiting on a possible drum tracks from someone who hit me up a few years ago wanting guitar tracks because they did a drum playthrough. So that's all I'm gonna reveal on that. But that'll be fun. If not, then I'll just do it old school and just program the drums like I did for Burning Pits, and quick and dirty. That's the way I like it. Anyway, cheers everyone.
Cheers. When you hit a creative wall, what usually gets you out of it?
I don't know if I could ever really look at it as a creative wall, but what I'll do is, especially if we're really deep in it and we're in songwriting mode, it's we got to get this done. My philosophy has always been, if I can just come up with some kind of part to something every day, if at least it's just one part, then mission accomplished. Then I can sit and think about that idea and see if that's actually going to work out. You know, and on some days it could be better. Some days you might get 2 or 3 killer ideas. Or in the case of the song Coastal Killings, I wrote that whole song in a night and didn't think I was finished with it until the next day, and I was like, oh, well, all it needs is a chord on the end and it's finished. um, it's really hard to say, man. I can't honestly say that I've hit a wall. I can say that I needed a break and I just had lost some interest in it just because of, you know, just needing a break. So, but you know, and taking a break every now and then is good, because when you pick it back up, you're really longing for it. You're really ready to get back into it. And but yeah, I hope that helps. I just try to, if we're really in crunch mode, then I just really try to come up with something cool, even if it's a 10-second clip of something. Something to throw in the mix and see how it goes with the rest of the arrangement. Before you know it, you've got a badass song. You know what I mean?
Joshua Dermer, hey Dallas, huge fan here in your neighbor to the south, Georgia. Have you ever messed with 7-string guitars? Thanks.
Oh, yeah, actually I have, and they're pretty cool. And I'll probably end up with one day. If I was to, and I've said this a few times over the years before, if I was to go back to using super low tuning all the time, like, you know, like Nile tunings, then I probably would just go to 7 strings. Because then you got the super low tuning, but then you have a standard guitar in there too. So there's a lot you can do with it.
Do you prefer small clubs with packed crowds or bigger stages with full production?
Yes. I like any or. I like playing live. It doesn't matter if it's a small club or a real big venue, or even the turnout. Of course, everybody wants big turnouts. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. I've sit here over the years and just watched it steadily grow. You know, the more we go out, the more the crowds seem to grow. But you know, a live show to me is a live show. I'm there to perform for you the best that I can. If it's, you know, a little dive bar, they all have their charm. You know, full production is really cool too. You can really get things set, you know, your monitor set, and give the guys an idea of what the lighting is going to be. And, you know, when you get in a situation like that, you can definitely use it. But, you know, to go into a little bar that holds like 70 to 100 people and small corner stage with 2 or 3 lights going, hell yeah, dude. Let's have a couple of drinks and raise some hell. I love it.
If you could have one guitarist do a guest solo on Narcotic album, who would it be?
That's a pretty easy one. Paul Gilbert. Hands down, man. That would be really great. He's a huge influence, not necessarily on my writing, but on some of the aspects of my playing technique. And yeah, I guess on some of my writing ideas too. He was always one of my favorite. He's a guitar player, in my opinion, that kind of got overlooked. His songwriting is actually pretty damn good, but he's such a good guitar player that got completely overlooked, because people were just like, wow, look at this guy go. But they're not listening to they're listening, but they're not really listening, if that makes any sense. But yes, Paulo Gilberto.
Why do you not use Seymour Invaders anymore?
I still have that on one of my guitars. My buddy Brian, who actually chimed in earlier and said, hey, he turned me on to the JB Jazz set, and I just fell in love. I just haven't looked back since. I'm pretty sure this solar guitar, this is Seymour Duncan's made for them. I'm pretty sure that they're pretty similar to like a JB and a 59 or a JB Jazz. They seem pretty similar. Don't get me wrong though, I still love the Invader. I find that they're good for certain tunings, and I still have a guitar that has them in it. What you got over there?
Is there a riff or solo you wrote that came together in 5 minutes but ended up becoming a fan favorite?
I can't really say necessarily a solo.
Riff,
Maybe the Evil to Cast Out Evil solo. That one.
riff or solo?
Yeah, solo wise, it would be that one because that one did really. I did write that really quickly, and it just kind of flowed. I had the. It was one of those situations where one of my favorite riffs in the song just happened to be where a solo needed to go, and that one just came out, man. It just came out of me, and so that was that one. And then riff wise, there's a lot. There's a lot of riffs that came out really suddenly. And like I said earlier, Coastal Killings, the song, I wrote that song in a night. I mean, the whole song in probably 3 hours, and had it demoed and everything. I read the book during the day, and then I wrote the song that night. It was just kind of like one of those things. My whole day was consumed with this crazy serial killer from South Carolina, and then by the end of that night, I had a song.
Hi Dallas, I've always wondered how to get proper intonation with a low tuning like drop A on a Fender 25.5 scale guitar. I mean, at least the lower E string won't have proper intonation.
Yeah, that can definitely be an issue. I've been pretty lucky with that over the years. I haven't had too many issues, but it does. The bottom line is this bridge saddle here not being able to go far back enough a lot of times. So when you hit it at the 12th fret, it's still sharp a little bit, and that can be an issue. I personally have had better luck. If that's a Fender with a Fender style bridge, then I guarantee, yeah, it probably doesn't have the movement needed. I have seen issues with Floyd Rose where they actually had to take a Dremel and like route out some of the material there so they could get the saddle to go back far enough. So that definitely is an issue. But the 25.5 scale length, you might be able to find a different bridge saddle alternative that will allow more movement back and forth, because that's where it really is. I've had the similar issue with this style bridge. The regular Tune-O-Matic bridge, some of them are more narrow and they don't have as much movement on the saddle, and you can run into that issue. Back when I was running the Dean guitars, they had the little thinner one, and I was having it replaced with a wider, like Nashville bridge or whatever it is they call it.
Eric Schultek, Lashed has similarities with Herd Beast. It's a marathon for a drummer at the speed, but ramps up in tempo.
Yeah. That ramp up in tempo in Lash, that's actually, it was a suggestion from either Carl or George, or maybe both. They were saying that the song needed to do something right there. And what else than to go faster? Why not? Yeah, go faster, right? Problem solved. And then, it goes into the faster part and then it drops back down. I mean, actually, arrangement-wise, it's a pretty simple arrangement on that song, but sometimes that's just works better. What else you got?
I got a few more.
Cool.
Is Barbarian a reflection of something personal, historical, or just pure brutality for fans?
It's actually a reflection of my sort of personal philosophy on how I want to live my life. Um, I you know, we live in a pretty crazy time right now, and I don't really like to dive too much into, you know, politics and crap like that. But barbarian for me is I consider myself sort of a modern day barbarian. I don't like to play by the rules, and I don't need a system of government or a system of religion to dictate how I live my life and how I treat other people. And that's kind of what the song is about. But you know, the song is also about just me finding my own inner and personal freedom and traveling the world playing music. Um, it's definitely a unapologetic form of escapism from the, you know, the regular mundane life that we're all force fed and forced to live. And so Barbarian's sort of my war cry to combat such mundane existences. I guess that'll explain it the best way. I hope that helps. But yeah, man, you know, it is pretty personal to me, and I always felt that other people, if they read the lyrics, they would probably feel something similar. You know, for us to sort of get rid of the situation, and all of us metalheads unite together and take this world back to the people who, you know, to the people who actually care about it.
Do you have fun stories, memories of touring in South America?
A little bit. We didn't, you know, when we toured South America back in the day. I remember one time it was literally like 18 flights, and they all connected in Sao Paulo. So we didn't really get a, you know, sometimes you don't really have a lot of time to really check a lot of things out. Um, so yeah, I do remember some killer food and some cool people and some good shows. But the in between stuff was just hopping on flights and trying to get 2 and 3 hours of sleep here and there.
Where do your lyrics come from?
Well, recently they've just been stuff that I've either been interested in, or my personal feelings or beliefs on something, or something that's personal to me that I want to, you know, share. A lot of the narcotic stuff is kind of based in what's going on in the world right now. Um, and, you know, we got a song coming up pretty soon. I don't know if it'll be on this album or the next album, but there's a song in the works. Well, it's pretty much done, but it's going to be talking about, you know, the fentanyl crisis and what that's doing to people. And I like to kind of keep all the ideas sort of relevant to what's going on today, and you know, hopefully, well, most certainly, you know, some people are definitely responsive to that, and yeah, so I hope that answers it.
Hi Dallas. I've always assumed that your time on the road touring was an inspiration for the subject matter in Narcotic Wasteland. Is that true? I'd be interested to hear what inspired you.
Some of it was stuff that I saw on the road. A lot of it was stuff that I was seeing in my hometown and in my neighborhood, and just in the world in general. You know, just the you know, the crazy drug use and stuff like that people were getting into. And, you know, I'm no saint myself, but I'm lucky that I never got into any of the really heavy stuff. And hell, I rarely even drink anymore. But you know, it was definitely, you know, narcotic has always been a reaction to the environment going on around me, so to speak.
What's one thing you always bring on tour that's not gear related?
Well, I usually bring some kind of portable video game. Um, I do a lot of driving, so I don't really necessarily have a whole lot of time to mess with it. And then by the time we do get to a hotel room, well, it's time for shower and sleep. Well, I think we've got like 1 day off on this next tour. So maybe on that 1 day off, I'll be able to play some video games. But yeah, that's about it.
From Brian Ellis. Dallas, do you keep up with new metal albums or bands in the underground, or do you prefer to only listen to the classics?
I would say yes to that. I mean, I probably am guilty of listening to more of the classics, but I definitely like checking out new stuff as well. And I wish I had more time to do that, but you know, when I do have time to devote to music, I'd rather play music or work on my own thing. But yeah, I'm always up to hear something new
Yeah,
and
we
killer.
check
And,
out new bands all
and
the
Brian,
time.
he's usually the guy to go to for that. He's turned me on to a couple of things, old and new, that I wasn't aware of. And hell yeah.
Hey Dallas, where can I find guitar tabs for your songs? Sorry if this has already been asked.
Well, right now, I've got a couple of things up on the DTW website,
And
DallasToler-Wade.com, and so check that out. And more to come. I've just got to sort of sift through everything. Most of the tablature, or pretty much all of the tablature for the narcotic stuff, is done already. But I do have to go through and just make some changes. Not necessarily to the notes, but some of the time signatures are weird. I don't know how many of you are familiar with working in Guitar Pro, but sometimes it can be a little. Sometimes you have to lie to it and tell things that's in a weird time signature, so everything lines up. And there is a little bit of a learning curve, at least for me, with Guitar Pro 5, and I've gotten much better with it over the years. So when I finally do get to release everything else, it's going to be pretty high quality. Like all the palm mutes will be in there, and the pick strokes, and what finger, and all that stuff. I can get all those details in there. Right now, it's a little bit. You can get by. It's a little bare bones. So just more information needs to be put into the files, the sessions.
the tour marks a big moment for fans hearing Nile classics live again. How does it feel to revisit those songs now through the lens of Narcotic Wasteland?
Oh, that's a pretty good question. It feels pretty good, man. When I started doing, when I made the decision I was going to do playthroughs of the Nile songs that I wrote on the DTW channel, I immediately just decided to go with one of the more obscure tracks that you don't really hear anybody talk about. And I was just like, wow, man, this is really wild. Some of the stuff, like, we played Lash of the Slave Stick, for instance. They're still playing it live, actually. But revisiting these songs has been pretty cool because, especially the ones that we never played live, because, chances are we got it tight, we recorded it, and then that was it. We didn't, other than maybe listening to it, we didn't really mess with the song anymore. So revisiting these songs is pretty weird. Some of the stuff came right back to me, like it came right back, and then other ones was like really weird feeling, like, man, how did I even come up with that? Some of that stuff did feel kind of strange. In the other song that I did a playthrough for, that was some very like backwards sounding riffs on that one. But yeah, it's been fun and a little challenging just to see if all that stuff is still in the old brain.
Hey Dallas, Permitting the Noble Dead is peak Nile for me. Does that song stick out? Oh, it disappeared. Stick out to you in the same way? Any interesting tidbits about that song coming together?
First, thank you. Second, I think that might have been one of the very first songs that was written for that album. I remember it was late in the year, and I remember my studio at the time was I had converted a 2-car garage into a studio. It was pretty cool setup. And I remember I was just in there one night, and it was really cold. And finally, I think my son came in there and was like, "You need to come inside. It's really cold." And I was just sitting out there, and that was a situation where I had written the song, and then I felt like I needed to finish it, like it needed something. And I didn't know what it was just yet, but I think we actually had to go out on tour or go play some shows. So when I got back, I listened to it, and I was like, it was one of those situations, I was like, well, it just needs a chord on the end to go bang, bang, and then the song. And so I remember that about writing it. But I also remember accidentally coming across the harmonized harmonics. See if I can give a quick demonstration on that. So basically, the solo or melody in that song is harmonized harmonics. I'm really just going like this, but I'm hitting harmonics like this. So I did that, and then I harmonized it with another track, and it just made this like super, almost like melancholic emotion behind it. And yeah, I'm pretty proud with how that song came out, and it is really chock full of emotion.
Do you ever use an EQ pedal in front of your amp, or is it effects loop? Also, do you use a noise gate?
I used to use the MXR EQ in front of the amp for a little bit of a mid-range boost, especially with the old JCM 2000 or something like that. Yeah, I used the MXR EQ for years, and then one day I was messing around with this thing, and then that started being what I put in front of everything. As a matter of fact, this was the settings that I used in front of the PV Windsor. Like, just all the way up, basically.
Oh yeah, I have a question. Someone asking.
Yeah, that's all the way up. Just dime it, And the Windsor is a pretty clean amp. I'd say distortion-wise, it's comparable to an 800. Maybe a little more than an 800. And a little bit less than, say, a PV Rockmaster preamp. It's somewhere in there, and it really seems excessive, but it loves what this amp does when you do this to the front end of that amp is just, it doesn't even make any sense. And as far as the noise gate, I've never used a noise gate. A lot of times when I'm playing live, I actually don't use that much distortion anymore. So I don't get feedback between stops. I'm not actually, especially if the amp is up loud. I don't really need all that extra distortion. But in the case of that, a lot of times I'll just use the clean channel as a kill switch because I don't use the clean channel. So then I'll just use the kill switch instead.
What are your influences growing up?
Oh man, a pretty wide range of influences. The big band that always sticks out in my mind is Rush. Although when I started playing music, I started out on the drums, and I was playing along with anything. I had the Beatles' Rubber Soul album. I used to play along with that. Anything like Rush, Black Sabbath was another one. My mom had a couple of the Black Sabbath records. Uriah Heep, Deep Purple, all the usual suspects. And then, of course, Yes. All the rock stuff, Queen, that. But I was a drummer, and then I kind of started transitioning into the heavier stuff. Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Metal Church, Metallica, and of course Sabbath was always a constant. You always go back to that, and that's what kind of was when I started getting into guitar and stuff. That was really the stuff I was getting into. Priest and Metal Church. And, of course, all the other usual suspects, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Flotsam and Jetsam, Testament, Exodus, Sanctuary, Dark Angel, all that stuff. We all listened to it constantly, and, I was always trying to figure it out on the guitar. And, the first year that I played guitar, I didn't even really mess with lead guitar at all. I just learned a bunch of songs all the way through rhythm only. And one of the reasons being is at the time when I started playing and getting more serious, I still wanted to be like a drummer. I didn't even really think I was going to be getting this into it, but that's what happened. What you got over there?
Is there a Narcotic Wasteland song that fans totally misunderstood and you kind of like it that way?
No, that's a good question, but no, I do think initially when we came out with it, that it was overall misunderstood a little bit. There was some pretty funny comments in the beginning on it. This guy was comparing me to McGruff the crime dog, stay off drugs, kids. And everybody had this misconception that this was some kind of straight edge project. And that is like far from it, Anybody that knows me and has hung out with me knows that I like to throw back a few brewskis every now and then. And maybe even occasionally take the pot. The thing that was always concerning with me, and the thing that I saw so many people getting their lives pretty much turned upside down or destroyed over, was anything harder than that. I mean, alcohol can destroy lives too, don't get me wrong. It's, doesn't really do anybody any favors. But, the pot probably being the least offensive to your health, mentally or physically, but all the other hard stuff, anything from cocaine all the way down, is very problematic, as we all know. And so, the focus is a little bit more on the harder stuff. But, we don't always write songs about that anyways. Narcotic Wasteland is just the name of the band. I've said it 1,000 times. I'll probably say it another 1,000, said it in an interview years ago. Somebody was asking me, it was a Nile interview, and somebody was asking me if we felt pigeonholed in any way in the lyrical content or what the theme of the band or whatever. And my answer was absolutely not. Iron Maiden doesn't write songs only about Iron Maidens. I mean, that's always been kind of my sort of philosophy on that. Like I said earlier, Narcotic Wasteland, we write about reality, what's going on in day-to-day modern life. And unfortunately, some of that has to do with some not so wholesome activities.
Do you use some modulation effects, phaser, chorus, univibe, etc.? Thanks for Nile, Narcotic Wasteland, and all musical inspirations.
Currently, no, I'm not using anything like that. I've thought about maybe experimenting with some stuff like that during recording, or after listening to a mix or something, and maybe trying to add something on like that. But as far as my live rig, I did use a mild delay on my solo boost for years, and I may start doing that again because I have a really cool pedal back here I did a review on not too long ago. But yeah, especially with the PV triple X's in here, lately I've just been plugging straight in, and that's it. No pedal, no nothing. It seems to work just fine, and especially if we're in a situation where we are opening for another band, I don't want to chew up a whole lot of time getting in people's way. I want to be able to go up there and set my crap up and go. And it's got plenty of distortion on its own. The only reason why I ever did use an overdrive pedal in front of it was to dial in the pick attack, but it's fine. It sounds great, actually, just plugging straight in. I like the yellow channel, not the red channel. The yellow channel seems a little more martially, a little more thrashy, I guess, if you will. So I really enjoy that.
What's your experience with Spotify? Does it help bands that are not huge?
Well, Spotify to me is like, where shall we start? There's two ways of looking at it. The one way to look at it, as probably the most truthful way at the moment to look at it, is that it is sort of a kind of a necessary evil. A lot of people, if you're trying to sell your band to get shows or get on festivals, or even in some cases land like a record deal or something, one of the things that they are going to look at is your Spotify numbers, your YouTube numbers. They're not necessarily looking at your physical sales anymore. I mean, that definitely helps. That's not excluded by any means, but the attention has sort of shifted to what you're doing as far as your Spotify numbers. But to help a smaller band, I don't really know. I mean, starting out, I don't know if I would worry about Spotify just yet. You know what I mean? Maybe do the Bandcamp thing or something like that. I don't know, honestly. I know that I don't think that there is a single artist that I know that's happy with the deal they're being handed. That's kind of robbery in my opinion. What if they were to pay me anything on the streams that I get, my life would be different. I'll tell you that right now. Oh, you lost that thing again. Yeah, it fell off. Got it?
Yeah.
It looks like a piece of plastic fell off of it that time. Well, maybe it was the piece of plastic that needed to fall off.
Maybe. Oh.
I think you got it there, babes. Is it gonna break your phone? Well, there you go. Once you get it in there, let's see if I can fix it.
Okay.
I think that ought to hold it
Yeah.
for now.
Seems like it.
Okay. Having a little issue with this other stand. It keeps wanting to throw the camera onto the ground. Oh, just about did it again. Anyways, we probably should be wrapping up here pretty soon. Throw some more questions at me there.
I enjoyed the breakdown for Permitting the Noble Dead. One of my favorite songs you have written is The Essential Salts. Very underrated Nile song. Anything you can share about that track?
It was a lot of fun to play live, and that was definitely one of the songs that got requested when we played live by the crowd. It was a pretty quick one to put together. That was one that was written pretty quickly, and the guys liked it, and we got busy on it, and a lot of. And then I remember us working on it at Rax Tracks in Chicago and adding a little bit of keys to the very end of it for the guitar melody. That was like the final touch on that song. And thanks, man. Definitely will, in the future, there will be a playthrough and tablature for that one. here's an interesting thing that I would like to bring up, because I have seen a couple people cover this song. And let me just fire this back up real quick. Put us down in. There we go. So, the main chorus riff, or I mean the main verse riff, that kind of goes like this. A lot of people miss the trill when they're doing it. So to play it slow, and another weird thing about that riff is if I turn around this way, well, I can see it over here, but the thumb has to pivot in one spot in order to do that riff. So, I see people trying to slide their thumb around, and you just can't do it that way. You got to be able to. All right. I guess we'll go at 8.
What's more important to you in a song? A riff that hits hard or a lyric that haunts?
I think both are very important. And if you can get both in the same song, then you've got essentially what they would call, lightning in a bottle. They're both very, very important. You've got to have riffs that are meaningful, and it would be very helpful, in my opinion, to have lyrics that would complement that, and they complement each other. That's the marriage.
Have you tried changing speakers in your cabinet?
I haven't tried changing speakers in my cabinet, but the cabinet that I have mic'd up for recording was hand selected, and basically what I did was I went through and recorded every single speaker that I own with a 57, just pretty much right in the middle of the speaker. Don't want to get too crazy into that one. I'm just trying to determine which is the best sounding speaker. But of course, it's like the second to last speaker. I tested, I still own 4 412 cabinets. At the time I did the test, I had 6. So I tested every speaker in every cabinet for 6 cabinets, and literally the second to last one was the best sounding one. Like way better, like in a completely different universe from the other ones. And I just thought that's funny. It's like, of course, it's got to be the last damn speaker I test, just about. And that one is actually a V30. But I do have a cabinet that I want to experiment with. I've heard a couple people talking about the Mojo Tone stuff, and I have a spare cab that the speakers in it are they're not Celestians. They're something else, and I haven't taste tested it against anything. But it's a good constructed cabinet. It's actually the cabinet that came with this Windsor. I guess it's got like the Sheffields in it. A lot of people talk a lot of smack about that. I've played through the cabinet. In the room, it sounds fine to me. I'm not an expert on this. I just know what I like, and it seemed to be fine. I didn't put it under the microscope or anything, but I would love to check out some of the Mojo Tone stuff for sure.
Do you have any recollections and memories of festivals of Atonement era? Do you miss the early times with Chief Spires and Pete?
Oh yeah, sure, man. Those were good times. Pete's a great guy. Me and Chief had a lot of fun together back in the day, just hanging out, talking about music and stuff. And I still see those guys around every now and then. You know what I mean? That was a good, exciting, fun time for the band. You know, we were all kind of starting. You know, we were kind of getting our start. You know, my first memory of Nile actually was before I ever even met the guys. A buddy of mine by the name of Clay, who was a killer drummer, he was playing in my band at the time, Deucalion, and he happened to be from South Carolina, and he knew those guys, and he had the first Nile album. It was just called Nile. I think they re-released it years later to call Worship the Animal or something. That was my first recollection of hearing that cassette and going, damn, man, these guys are pretty killer. So, funny story, we booked a show with those guys, and then unfortunately we had to pull out of the show sort of last minute. But years later, I was kind of looking for a gig because at the time the scene in my hometown had dried up. Nobody was really wanting to play in a band, or at least stuff that I wanted to play anyways. And there wasn't really, not only was there no venues to play, but there was nowhere to really even rehearse anymore. It was just kind of a dead time for that. And, well, I have you know that I didn't put up with that for very long. I got the hell out of there and tried out for Nile and got the gig.
Bought a Legends Ultimate Arcade cabinet and is a blast. Own any arcades?
Not yet. It's definitely on the bucket list of things to do. I'd like to have a pinball machine and maybe one of those cocktail table style deals. That would be cool. I do still have a pretty extensive collection of vintage video games and stuff. And on the Dallas Toler-Wade YouTube channel, you know, obviously there's going to be a lot of music stuff on there. But since it's not the Narcotic Wasteland channel, and it's my channel, I'll be able to do stuff like Nile playthroughs. I'll be able to maybe show off some of my video game collection and some of that stuff. It's something that I was kind of wanting to maybe add to the channel and the episodes when I get back to doing episodes again. And I probably will even add some true crime stuff in there as well. And, you know, pretty much anything that I'm into, anything DTW, games and murder and heavy metal and beer.
Do you play the bass guitar behind you?
Yeah, that's the thing that I use for just tracking in here for my demos and stuff. I picked that bass up earlier this year because I needed to complete a project that I did with the dude. We wrote a song together. I'm not sure when that's coming out. I thought it was already supposed to be out, but well, I'm sure that'll come out eventually, and it's pretty badass. I'm pretty proud of it. But yeah, it's a good one, man. It's 5-string, and it's just got one big old pickup in it, and it's got a lot of clank to it. It's a good one, especially Lemmy style plugged into the old Marshall. That's just perfect.
Did you ever do any studio time with Scott Burns with any of your projects? Any fun memories you'd like to share?
No, I never got to work with Scott. That would have been really cool. I've really only got to work with one producer, and that was Neil Kernan. And I have to say that he's a stellar guy, and I learned so much from him about just mixing, recording, and just how sound works in general. I mean, the guy is absolutely brilliant, and I'm very thankful and honored to have worked with someone of that caliber, and not to mention the fact that a super cool guy, and just full of clever jokes.
What does the name Narcotic Wasteland mean to you now versus when you first started the band?
Pretty much the same thing. I mean, it all started with the first song that was written for it called Widespread Narcotic Wasteland. And, the focus, I think, has just become a bit more honed in. It means, I would just say that it means more to me now than it did then. When I started it, it was just kind of a project for fun, and, it ended up being something that I'm doing a little bit more full time. And, I'm very thankful and appreciative of all the support and all the opportunities that I've gotten with this, because I never walked into any of this expecting really anything other than to maybe play a few shows and have a good time every now and then. And it's turned into a little bit more than that. It's turned into quite a beast these past couple, 2-3 years. After the COVID curse lifted and we could venture back out into the world, things have just been popping, man. We're just getting more offers, and we're just still, spreading the word, that the project is even there, because you would be amazed. There's a lot of people that still don't really even know about it, and we're working on that. We get more people checking us out every day, and that's what it's all about, right?
Do you ever dream riffs or lyrics, and do you trust them when you wake up?
Yeah, I've had some strange stuff kind of happen like that. I do trust them when I wake up, if they're good, and I still remember them, obviously. But that was a thing that kind of happened with Lash to the Slave Stick. I fell asleep watching Creepshow 2, and when I got up the next day, I was humming the harmony or the melody that was during the Indian Man scene. The wooden Indian guy. You watched it before.
Mm-hmm.
I torment the wife with all my cheesy horror stuff. I think she secretly likes it, but or she just tolerates it. But anyways, yeah, the Indian Man's. I woke up the next day and I was humming this thing in my head. I didn't even realize it, and so I picked up my guitar. It was my Dean Explorer at the time. I picked it up and da na 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 na, that part. It just kind of came out, and for the longest time I thought, well, this is cool. Where the hell did this come from? Because I have had things, come into my brain, and then I figure it out later. So this wasn't. It didn't. It wasn't a situation where I was sitting there in front of the movie, like trying to figure it out. It wasn't like that. It just kind of happened. And then I didn't even think I realized what the hell it was until after the album was already out. And some fan had written in, and they had the Grim Reaper looking skeleton dude on the Creepshow. I used to have the comic. Don't know what the hell happened to that. But yeah, they showed that, and it was talking about the Indian Man. So there's a similar what you're talking about.
If someone's never heard the band, which song should they start with, and why?
That's a really tough one. But in the case of Narcotic, I mean, we got a lot of, not saying that, Nile didn't have a lot of variety. It definitely has a lot of variety. That was one of the reasons why I love what they do, and love what we did when I was in the band. Is it wasn't just constant brutality all the time. There was some other things going on. So it would really depend on what you would want, because Narcotic has stuff that's almost more on the arena rock side of things, and then we have some things that are crazy. People, I guess, would call it technical death metal or whatever. We're kind of all over the place, so it depends on what you're in the mood for. If you want like something more classic thrashing tune, then I would say a song like Bleeding Swell. But if you're just in it for the brutality, then I would say a song like maybe Introspective Nightmares. I think the Delirium Tremens album would be a good place to start. Not to say anything bad about the debut album. It's great. There's songs on that debut album that I'm never going to leave the building not playing. songs like Keeping Up with the Jones, one of our biggest hits. So we're always going to play that live unless we just run out of time or I forget what the hell's on the set list, which happens. Yeah, check out Delirium Tremens. I mean, that's a good album, a good starting point if you've never heard us before. It'll definitely give you a crash course in everything that we do, whether it be fast brutality or more slow, melancholic, even doomy at times. You know, we're all over the place.
What's a backstage ritual that always gets you in the right mindset before going on?
Well, I like to warm up on the guitar and practice. I like to stretch out my body, stretch out my hands, all that stuff. Make sure I got some kind of cold liquid. At least I like to have a bottle of water and maybe a cold ass beer on tap or something like that. But mostly just the stretching and the warming up. That's like very important.
Have you ever changed the set mid-show because the crowd's energy?
No. I have cut a few songs before or cut a song or two, not a few songs, but maybe a song or two if the sound is just off or, you know what I mean, maybe the crowd's just not feeling it, but usually the crowd's going pretty nuts and they're usually pretty damn captivated. I've got time for about maybe one more, then we're gonna have to get off of here.
What's one Narcotic Wasteland lyric that means something personal to you but most fans would miss?
I don't know if they would miss it though. Like, I definitely have some stuff that's personal to me. But I think usually when people respond or talk to me about the lyrics and the songs and stuff like that, they totally get it and they're totally into it. You know what I mean? So that's a really hard question, actually. But I will say this: this is sort of a unknown thing or something that I may have mentioned this before, but it's not something that I normally think about or bring up. But we actually have a trilogy of songs that kind of go together, and it's Bleeding Swell, Absent Friends, and The Best Times Have Passed. Like, all those songs kind of make a song together, like what they're talking about. Just to give a little something for anybody who's checking us out to think about. Check out those 3 songs and tell me what order you think they should go in. As once you check them all out, it's pretty obvious that they go together and they're all part of the same subject. And yeah, that's the more sort of melancholic, doomy, moody side to the band. I don't like to write the same song twice. There's plenty of bands out there that are pretty damn good, but there are some bands out there that it just seems like they play the same song over again. And I don't want to be that band. I don't even want to, write the same song or the same album or anything. It's all got to be kind of different.
Did you want to show them the settings?
Well, we did kind of look at those settings.
Oh, you already did that?
Yeah, I did. I did a sweep of the Windsor. But I do have pictures taken of the settings of the Marshall and the settings of the PV, and I showed the overdrive earlier. It's pretty simple. I mean, one of the reasons why I like working with these older amps like this, or this isn't necessarily an older amp, but it's modeled after an older amp, is because there isn't a whole lot of knobs on there. There isn't a whole lot for me to screw up. You start putting too many knobs on things, and I'm guaranteed to just overthink it, and I will end up screwing it up.
But with this, you get bass, middle, treble, a resonance and a presence, which I'm not even really using that much of. There's not a whole lot that you can do with this. With that. This has a boost button on it, and it just boosts the mid range like crazy. So if you're like a mid range freak, which some guitar players are, they're just like they'll have the mids like dumped, and then they'll have like the bass and the treble rolled back, and that's cool. I'm kind of the other way around. I don't scoop out all the mids. I just scoop out what I consider to be like the cheapness sound. Like I just want it to sound, more expensive than it actually is. So I scoop out some of the mids, but these amps right here are very mid-range heavy anyways. You can't really take the mid-range out of this Marshall. It's set the same way as this one is. It's like, up 1/4, I guess. And that's just enough to give it the note clarity without making it sound, super round and honky and cheap sounding. But that's just a personal preference, you know what I mean? Anyways.
Yeah, we can get the merches on Season of Mist.
Okay, yeah. She's reminding me of stuff that I need to say before I get off of here. Thanks everyone for chiming in. I apologize if I wasn't able to get to your question. We'll probably end up doing this again sometime. I am going to be doing more playthroughs, obviously, on the DTW channel, and I'm going to be doing another episode at some point. I don't know if I'll have a chance to get to doing another episode before I leave for the tour, but definitely going to do some more stuff, more product reviews, more playthroughs. Definitely on the playthroughs. I should be able to get one more of those done before we leave on the tour. And but I just want to say thanks to everybody who tuned in tonight. If you haven't checked out the playthroughs over on the DTW channel, go ahead and do that. I think you'll dig it. And I'm going to just keep bringing more. And like I said, I've already gotten a lot of really cool suggestions for the next YouTube episode. What we're going to talk about. Some of it we covered on tonight. Maybe we can do more. And on another note, I'm being reminded by the wife that we have merchandise available on the Season of Mist website. Go check that out. And please, if we're coming to a town near you, come check out the tour in September. And what's that for? Oh. Yeah, anyways, this crazy one over here. We have been doing nothing but laughing this weekend over silly stuff. But yeah, check out the dates. I want to see you out there. We're going to be playing a couple of the Nile songs. There's a clip of us out there that you can probably hear of us doing last. That was like the first time that we had actually even really played the song together, and it came out actually pretty great. It fell right back in. It had been a long time since I had sang and played Lash of the Slave Stick, but it just fell right back in, like I didn't stop doing it. But, that's all part of the discipline, you've got to practice. It's nice to sit around and play scales and all that stuff, and that's good. But if you really want practice and you really want to kick ass at your shows and have good results and progress on the instrument, hit that set list. Anything you've ever played live. I got a 2.5 hour set list in there. Of course, we're not going to play 2.5 hours, but I keep all these songs under my fingers just to stay up on my stamina and my chops. And that's what's kept me at this level for this long, is just that kind of discipline. It's the only way to do it. And it's fun, when I don't get to practice and play guitar, I become a grumpy person. You can ask wifey over here. She doesn't want to deal with it. She's like, just play your guitar. What's that old song, Shut Up and Play Your Guitar? Yeah, that's That's pretty much what needs to happen. Anyways, thanks so much for coming out and hanging out with us and asking some questions and stuff. Again, if I didn't get your question, I apologize. We probably will end up doing this again. Check out us on the socials. Check us out on this on this tour and all that stuff. And we will see you again soon. Cheers.